Item 40, please.
Item 40, a second reading. An ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, the city, repealing ordinance number 36-16, authorizing the issuance of its sales tax revenue bonds and other actions related thereto.
Councilor Erickson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council and citizens. Today we have an opportunity to pause and to continue to move this discussion forward. We want to work with the administration, and we look forward to that opportunity. Today is a chance to start with a new plan, to stop the clock, simply stop the clock. Regroup with a fresh start, with all entities in mind, the city, the county, and the state. Around a table, we can do this together. This is not shutting the door. This is simply starting fresh and addressing the needs of all entities together. We are currently not out of space, and we have the time to do this right the first time. I'd encourage my counselors to continue to move this conversation forward and set the tone that we want to regroup and start fresh and collaborate together with one another.
Councilor, thank you. Folks, this is a second reading, and because of that, you again have that opportunity to engage the council before I turn it over to the council for their dialogue and then ultimate decision. Is there anyone who wants to speak to this item, or I apologize, Sue. I suppose, yeah, we probably should let you speak before I go to the public input. Sorry, my apologies. Folks, we're still not in the public input portion. My apologies. Sue, please go ahead.
Good evening. Sue Kwan-Beck-Etten, Director of Central Services. I'm here just to give you a very brief recap of this project, the City Administrative Office Building Project. The problem we're trying to solve is this. We are out of space. We have teams that are split up, which is inefficient. We are leasing space, and we have no room for growth, and that is the problem we are trying to address. We have been doing due diligence for nearly 10 years. A formal space needs assessment was done with the prior administration in 2007, and we did our own in 2012. We have researched alternatives for a 3-year period from 2012 through 2015. We have done everything we can to maximize the space within City Hall. We did renovations in 2014 and 2015. And we arrived at the conclusion that what we need to do is to build a new building. We presented this as our recommendation to the council in April of 2015. We worked through the summer doing a formal RFP process to find an architect and to find a construction manager at risk. We worked through the winter months, creating the design and our project budget for this building, which we presented to the full council in February of 2016. We have been working hand in hand with the council on this. To sum it up, owning costs less than leasing. We have been leasing since 2013. The building plan that we have come up with is the right size for now and for the future. This building will meet our needs now and 50+ years into the future. We want to build it right the first time. We have a track record of building with quality materials that will last. We don't want to have to come back in 10-15 years to replace the roof or the HVAC system. We believe that a quality work environment is essential. In this tight labor market with low unemployment, we really need to have decent workspace to attract and retain good quality workforce. Ultimately, city government is not going away. We need to plan for the future. We have been talking about space needs for the last 10 years. We put together a solid design and we're ready to go. Costs are only going to go up. We all know this. Currently, we have locked in prices for the cost to build, but the guaranteed prices will go away if this project is stopped. And as I said, we have been working hand in hand with the City Council for nearly 2 full years to address this need, answering questions along the way. The Council voted to purchase the bonds this fall, and we would ask you to support that decision. Thank you.
Thank you, Sue. Folks, now I am going to go to public input. Please just come forward if you want to talk about this particular item. It's probably the same things apply. Just tell us your name, please. Keep your comments to 5 minutes or less. And then there is just one other little caveat when we go to second reading. We would ask you, if you can, to try to find a way to not repeat some of the comments that have already been made. Again, just really appreciate you being here. Again, good luck. Yes, Scott, welcome.
Scott Eversman, Sioux Falls. Before I start talking about the building, I just want to remind the council and the mayor, I know that from this last item we talked about, there's always 2 sides to a story. Let's always remember that, and let's not always take one side and make a decision or the other. Listen to both sides. Anyway, I hope you do that tonight with this also. I noticed these letters sitting over here on the table from the state, Minnehaha County, and Lincoln County. They pretty much all kind of say the same thing, that they're open to discussing any kind of space needs, but they really weren't sitting at the table when we were all planning this, were they? As for this discussion about how we've been talking about a city administration building since 2007, geez, I was surprised to hear that. It's been, Sue just brought it up, the mayor's brought it up in the news. We keep bringing this up. 10 years we've been talking about building a new building. But, you know, after the municipal election where the Spellerberg outdoor pool was voted down, about a week after that, we were gung-ho on building an aquatic center. Nobody talked about an administration building. We got about $18 million of a levy bond repayment on some levies. Great money to go towards infrastructure. Nobody talked about building an administration building. We decided that we were going to cash that money and call it cash and build a pool with money that was in the bank account with reserves. And now we need an administration building that we need to bond for. So where was the talk of the administration building when this pool was needed to be built? There wasn't. It's kind of like the railroad project. The railroad project was going ahead, and then all of a sudden when these people wanted a downtown event center, nobody wanted to talk about the railroad project because it would provide perfect parking space for a downtown event center. Administration building's the same way. Kind of got shoved in a drawer until we got this pool built. And now all of a sudden, we've been talking about this for 10 years. But we didn't talk about it when we were building a pool. It's a waste of money, period. There's no other way to look at this. We don't need another building. There's so many empty city buildings right now that we could put office space in. It is a gigantic waste of money that is purposely being built, in my opinion, to make some contractors and some bond salesmen a little jingle in their pocket. I suggest you repeal this and look at using existing space in our city. Thank you.
Folks, anybody else want to engage the council on this topic?
Jim David was going to come up and run the machine. Oh, there he is. Okay, sorry.
Mr. Dennison, go ahead.
Bruce Danielson, Sioux Falls. Probably don't know what this building is, but this is the Jefferson County Administration Building, courthouse that was built out in just outside of Denver. And I saw this building being built, and I wondered what this monstrosity was. And so Jonathan Ellis put it in his article this weekend about wasteful decisions surround new building. And he brought this back up as a reference as to what happens over time, and especially with following elections when these type of wasteful buildings are built, and when everybody that was running for re-election that year was defeated because the citizens of the county were so upset by this monstrosity. So I just want to throw that in as a word of caution in the whole thing, because what he also said in the article was that the elected officials were just tone deaf to what the people were actually asking for. Scott brought up the 3 letters that were over there, and we've never seen, no matter what anybody from the city administration says, we've never seen any kind of cooperation that could be considered real cooperation with the other governmental bodies that reside in this town. We have that issue, and then we also have one that I think is really important that was brought out in the paper, that's circled in this headline, was by hiring the contractors to do any kind of space needs study on any other building. And as much as I like a lot of the work these individuals do, that is just such blatant conflict of interest to somehow get somebody to come in and look at a building. And if you look at the video that we put up on SIOUX.org or on South Dakota, on the testimony from this last week, I went into the building and I actually did the measurements myself and saw a lot of what was being said in there, and it's absolutely totally wrong. That a lot of the things that were said in there were said in conflict with what their original stated goals were. And the last thing I want to remind everybody, about 15 months ago, on April 14th, 2015, I was personally assaulted by a member of this administration when I was here for an actual event that I was part of, and it's requiring dental work, and I was injured because I'm here trying to bring this stuff out in public, and that was minutes after this presentation was made that I was struck on the back of my head and was injured. And I'm not going to forget that. Thank you.
Folks, did anybody else want to engage the council on this topic? Welcome.
Tim Stenga. One thing I found out, just because somebody's more expensive and somebody's cheaper doesn't mean that you're not going to get the best care and the best quality out of any kind of an ambulance service.
Mr. Stenga,
I'm just going to say that.
You got to stay focused on this topic, please.
I'll stay focused right now,
Appreciate
sir.
it. Thank you.
Last time I was in on the meeting, on the first reading, we brought in the builder and we brought in the architect. Do you think the builder and the architect are going to say anything good about a used building? Because they don't make as much money on a used building. They make more money on when they build a new building. So it's just amazing that we bring in 2 people that really and truthfully shouldn't have been brought in to begin with. And well, again, people of Sioux Falls, you do realize why they were brought in. One thing I realize is we got to look at our wants and our needs. Do we want a new building or do we need a new jail? Not a hard one to figure out. 5 o'clock news, they came on TV and they stated that they wish that they could work with the city, where the county and the city could work together on being able to come up with a new jail. We got people that are sleeping on the floors. Wants or needs? Do we need a jail? Probably three-fourths of the people that are put in jail, where are they from? Sioux Falls. Do we put 1 dime towards the jail in Sioux Falls? Out of the city money, out of the city fund? I don't know if we do or not. I really doubt it. But it's too bad that the city and the county can't work together to be able to figure out what we want and what we need. I agree with Christine that we, one, should reconsider what's being done. Because I don't believe that this building is what we need. It's what we want. And if it's because we want it so we can put our name on it, that's the wrong way to do it. And again, people of Sioux Falls, you got to watch what's going on. Because this is money that is going to be spent for a long time. And if we're talking about we're going to get people to show us how to build a building and we're going to build it that it's going to last, look at the event center. Look at the quality. I sat and watched that siding being put on the event center. I talked to 2 of the city council people and had them go down and look at it. And they told me something just doesn't look right. But see, that's quality. That's using quality products. That's using quality on putting that in. But see, that got all put underneath the rug because it's all a secret. The citizens of Sioux Falls have to realize there's a lot of secrets out here. And you got to remember, if we're going to go at the same way we built the event center and you go at management at risk, anything that goes in or anything that changes on this new building just goes through the mayor. And look at what we ended up with the event center. It looks worse every day. But see, the sad part about it is the people of Sioux Falls, we can't follow back on the emails. We can't follow back on when this contractor came up to the city and stated that, wait a minute, this event center, this siding don't look right. But see, that was an election year. And if it didn't get done on the right time, nobody would get their kickbacks. I think the citizens of Sioux Falls should realize what kind of kickbacks we're really given.
Councilor Staley, or
So I guess
Tim,
the thing is
Tim,
I believe
Tim,
that it shouldn't be
Tim,
done.
I've been asked by Council Chair Rolfing to discontinue your conversation. Councilor Rolfing, because the attacks were against me, I just let him go. But thank you. Yeah, thank you. Folks, my apologies. Is there anybody else who wanted to engage the council on this particular topic? Welcome.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Oh, absolutely. Yep. Can you hear me now?
Yes, thank you.
My name is Rana DeBoer. I'm the Workwell Manager at the City of Sioux Falls and Human Resources. I oversee employee training and development, well-being and health, and workers' compensation and safety. I've worked with the administrative building project team to ensure that the citywide goals of health and safety have been supported through the design of the project. A few years ago, CEO at IBM interviewed all of their worldwide folks and asked them, what are the most important traits in your workforce, in the workforce today? What do we need the most? With resounding results. They need teams that can collaborate. They need teams that can communicate, that can be flexible, and can be creative and innovative. Fostering these traits requires new thinking and some new strategies. Organizations must create work environments and a culture that allows those traits to thrive. Steelcase is a major manufacturer of office furniture. They have done extensive research on this topic and just a few years ago produced an amazing report that shows us some of those essential components to make those 4 things thrive in our workplaces. Those traits really help us to produce good health and productivity and performance in our people. It is a busy, busy organization. We are a growing community and a growing organization. To make those things thrive, we want to focus on our work environment. We want to allow our employees to be and do the best that they can. And that has a lasting impact, a direct and lasting impact that goes farther than the walls of our city. it extends out into our great community. Several of those components that Steelcase talks about were included in the design of the proposed administrative building. For example, adequate natural light to keep our minds bright and connected to nature. Open, collaborative workplaces that allow teams to have the room to move, to connect, and to make good decisions. A design that encourages and promotes physical activity, things like on-site locker rooms and bike-to-work amenities. And remember, activity, physical activity, is that big driver and stimulator for cognitive thinking. That's a positive work environment. Today, people are expecting to find those traits in a workplace. And you'll find that many businesses in our community have embraced those strategies. The city prides itself on being an employer of choice and creating positive environments where our people can grow and be their best and extend that out into our community is of the utmost importance. So I thank you.
Thank you, Rana. Folks, anybody else? Welcome.
My name is Dennis Bresky. I'm with NAI Sioux Falls, and I'm here to help the 300 building ownership with a kind of a different angle on the 300 building. And first of all, I want to thank you all for your service. I don't work a lot with City Hall and City Council, but in interacting with all of you a fair amount over the last few weeks, you do a lot of work and appreciate it. And the city's a great city. I kind of came up with a different angle that I wanted to present tonight as quickly as I can here after I got a call last Thursday from the folks at Henry Carlson. They wanted to meet with me to kind of sit down and discuss things and compare notes and try to clear the air on what's what. I had numbers, they had numbers, and so we did. We sat down at my office Friday morning at 10:30 and met for about an hour, which gave me a much better understanding of the scope of the project, and that's really where we had our main differences, is that I have one scope in mind, and they have another scope in mind. And it helped me understand a lot of the differences in the estimates that I had and the estimates that they had. So after that conversation, I really thought about things and just really tried to focus on some of the comments I got from other councilors about what the city needs. The city needs office space. And I think about the 300 building. I think it's an awesome building for the city because of its location. It's a good, solid building. I still feel very strongly it would be a good building to purchase. I understand a lot of the concerns and issues, and they're justified. But there's always different ways. It's very unfortunate that we have 10 1/4-inch treads on our stairs instead of 11 inches. They're very functional, but they don't quite meet code. Hopefully there might be a way around that. But through all of that, what I did is I started to step back and just look at what would it take for if we could just step in as the landlord and provide nice, clean, new, totally remodeled office space. At what price could we deliver that? And so I actually put together a proposal that I've gone over with Danielle and with Todd Broyne, the owners of the building. And it would feature up to 44,000 square feet of space, which would be the first floor and the second floor. We could deliver it, I just guessed, at April 1st. Rent would commence upon occupancy. We would deliver this building to the city, turnkey, no money out of pocket for the city. I'm anticipating about $2 million worth of investment from the landlord. For that, they would need a good lease commitment, a 10-year lease commitment. We feel that $18 gross would be a rental rate that would give the landlord a good return on their base, let's say the as-is price, cover all the utilities, cover their investment in remodeling the space. So it would be a total gross lease. Taxes, insurance, utilities, snow removal, lawn care, everything is included. So that comes out to $60,894 per month. The operating expenses, as I mentioned, are all included in there. You would have renewal options to renew. You'd have a right of first refusal on any adjacent space or space above you in the building, and you'd have an option to purchase if you get in there and you like it. That, of course, would go up from the original price of $6 million. If we put $2 million into it, that price would jump to $8 million. But I'm pretty confident, based on even the DocuTap tour, where they completely finished off their space for $50 a square foot. That's kind of the number that I'm using. This offer would be contingent upon the city and the 300 building owners working together to come up with a plan where the space could be remodeled for that amount of money, although if it costs more, we could simply do that, have to increase the rate a little bit. But the scope of the project would have to be more in line with just providing nice, clean, functional office space, not a lot of the changes that were discussed with Henry Carlson there that they were asked to bid on. So I prepared, just to kind of roll this through in my mind, I prepared an analysis that shows, as best as I could estimate here with the information that I had, kind of the cash flow. I'm about cash flow. What's the money out of pocket on a monthly basis? So I met with Rex today and talked to him about this whole thing. He helped me hone in on 21.9 million would be the amount of the bond. 2.75%, I believe, is the city's cost of money. I use 20-year amortization. So given those terms, your monthly debt service would be, I might have to get my glasses on here, $118,000, I believe.
Dennis, you're at about 20 seconds.
What's that?
20 seconds to go.
Okay, 1.4 annually. The difference is $65,000 a month between renting and making the mortgage payment. Just wanted to pass that along.
Dennis, thank you very much. Is there anybody else who want to engage the council on this topic? Welcome.
Honestly, can't believe I'm getting up here, but Jeffrey Schmidt, City Planning Office. I've sat here all night and I've listened to everybody talk about morale and customers, and you read about in the paper. I don't know if anybody's really from City Council talked to city staff, so I'll just talk about my personal experience. I don't know if anybody's actually been to my space. So our space floods. The mayor's been down there. When it rains, we flood. My floodplain maps have all been flooded out, which is really embarrassing. Okay, when it rains, and then we have to get the vents out and we have to try to dry out our papers. It's very interesting down in the basement. We have kind of light. We've cut some holes in the wall and put some glass up so we have some indirect light. But otherwise, 9 hours of the day, I don't see daylight. We have 2 storage areas that flood completely, but that's better than the first 14 years that I got to spend upstairs. I was for 14 years next to the men's bathroom, and the walls leak. So I always thought it was just wet precipitation, but I don't know for sure. Now the assistant city engineer is there, so I let him deal with it. It just leaks down the wall, and then they come in, they put new caulk on it, and then the wall just falls, and they put new caulk on it. When you're in an old building, the buildings aren't in the best shape. Anybody that lives in the core, okay, caulk is just caulk. It just comes down. This is not the Taj Mahal. I spent 20 years in Aurora, Colorado. We went through 3 city halls. We're not building a city hall. Am I wrong? I don't think we're building a city hall. We're building one building for some parts of the department. If we were building a new city hall, the building would be much larger, much grander, much different, but we're building one aspect of it, and it's been in the CIP for years about this. Since the 17 years that I've been here, the 10 years, it's in your CIP council every year. We're always talking about it. So now whether it's not physically out there in the newspaper, if it's not one of the issues that's being discussed, it's always being discussed at your public hearings. It's always there. It's always been part of it. And city staff, if you asked us, we would say it would help us because we need space. We don't have physical space to put one more person in the basement in the Planning and Building Services Department. We don't have any space. Any questions?
Just public input, Jeff.
Thank you.
You bet. Thank you. Welcome, folks.
Hi, I'm Bob Winkles, 3070 West Donahue Drive. Most of you probably don't know who I am, but I've had a lot of experience in design and construction over the years. I owned a firm called the Winkles Group for 30 years, and in the last 6 years I've been head of design and construction for Sanford Health. I'm here representing Bob Winkles. Nobody at Sanford Health knows I'm here. Nobody's talked to me about it. Mayor has not talked to me about it. None of the city council members have talked to me about it. Not talked to anybody at Coke Hazard or Henry Carlson about it. So here's what I think about it. You know, based on my experience in the past, I would tell you this. When Jack White was mayor, this was in the early 1990s, before the Washington Pavilion happened, that pavilion, the former high school, was thought of as a county-city joint building for space. And it didn't work out. And subsequently, the Washington Pavilion was built as an arts center. I was the owner's rep on that. That's what we did half of the time. That's what I do full-time for Sanford Health now. Later, in the late 1900s, or 1998, 99, I did a space study for the city. And Gary Hansen, we did some analysis of both City Hall, how we'd change it, how we'd build where the parking ramp is north of City Hall, how we'd possibly lease from Don Dunham the next building north and renovate that. And none of those things made some economic sense. Those were business decisions, and we backed off. We looked at this building. Since the Arts Center was moving to the pavilion, and I was the architect that did the town hall here. So that was after that in the early 2000s. When Dave Munson was here, we also did a feasibility study on City Hall, on renovation, all the MEP systems. We looked at lease and renovate options then. So it's been going on since the early 1990s. This is not a new deal. There's been a need. And so that's one of the points that I want to make. Another reason I'm here is because I'm really bothered by what I see on TV and I read in the Argus about all this conflict of interest. People that know nothing about what's going on in the industry are making comments about conflict of interest. Do you know, I mean, I negotiated all those contracts that I've told you about as an owner's rep. I negotiate every contract anywhere that Sanford Health is doing things with architects and contractors. And architects demand higher fees on renovated buildings. And we do those 20 to 1 in Sanford Health. 20 buildings renovated compared to 1 new. And we pay higher fees, and they need higher fees to work on those buildings. Those people are in the business to make money. If they're going to have a conflict of interest, they steer it toward where they're making money. This business of suggesting that their conflict of interest is trying to steer you in a new building is reverse of what reality is. General contractors, we force them into competition when we know all the evidence, and we can do that in new buildings. There's hardly ever change order. When we got an existing building, you're always uncovering problems, and we have to have contingencies for that. They make more money on renovated buildings. Do you think that this group, of which I know both of the firms, Coke Hazard and Henry Carlson, very experienced, very professional, high integrity, and do you think they're trying to steer you into a new building? You got blindfolds on and earmuffs. It's absolutely contrary to what reality is in the business. The last item is just on time. You know, you've already spent about $1 million more than a year ago because construction escalation has been going in the last year between 4 and 5. It's currently between 5 and 6. So if you spend another year on it, 5% of 20 million, you're going to spend another $1 million. That's my taxpayers' money. So I think you need to make some prudent decisions, and you make them in a hurry. And I'm not pushing you to new or renovated. I'm just pushing back against all the false information that has been thrown out there between the Argus and the news media and the TV. It's absolutely false. And you need to make some decisions, and hopefully in our interest as taxpayers, make them in a hurry, one way or the other, on what you're going to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Welcome.
Good evening. My name is Rob Oliver. I currently serve as president of Augustana. I've been there for the last 12 years, and prior to that time, I was 28 years in the banking business. Most of that here in Sioux Falls. My wife and I have called Sioux Falls home for the last 39 years. And I have, over that time, seen many, many issues come before our community and many big decisions that have had to be made. And I'm really proud of the growth and progress of this community, and I am pleased to tell as many people as I can, wherever I can, whenever that opportunity arises. I addressed the City Council tonight in favor of moving forward with the proposed new office building for our city. And I am motivated to be here tonight because I believe there are many others who also feel as I do and that who have served in leadership positions on behalf of our community. I know that this has already been said, but this project is not a new discussion. I know for some on the council this may seem very new and that there's a sense of pressure, but this project has been in the works for a long time. Indeed, the land where it is to be situated was acquired by the city by a prior administration and a prior city council in 2007. What a visionary and forward-thinking decision it was, because it was in future contemplation of this project, in future contemplation of the city's needs. As our city has grown, so has the workforce that serves our community, and their space needs are evident. I know this from talking to friends of mine that work here. Unless we believe that our city is going to begin to decline, then the need will only become more acute and the solution will become more expensive with the passage of more time. The city is a major employer. The city will need to continue to attract top talent in order to serve our citizens well. Quality services to our citizens don't just happen. They're accomplished by a group of thoughtful and hardworking professionals. These professionals are in high demand in both the public and private sectors. So the question is, how do you continually position our city to be an attractive employer and thus an efficient and effective provider of quality services to our citizens? I believe that the planning has been done over the last several years to assess those needs and to develop the proposed solution that will provide a modern, efficient workspace that maximizes city employees' ability to work collaboratively and to provide the best service to citizens. When I was a banker, I learned a lot about buildings. I financed a lot of them, mostly for our customers. And I watched them build and I learned from them. I learned from many of them who were contractors in the business and by many of the designers who designed them. I also learned by the buildings that I authorized to be built for the bank. At Augustana, I've continued to learn with the projects that I have undertaken while there. What I've learned is that small footprints with many stories are considerably less efficient than one that has a larger footprint and fewer stories. That is a simple and basic element because circulation, HVAC systems, and staff spread between different floors, between more floors, equals less efficiency. That was clearly evident in the design that we did for banking facilities, and that's why there's a very large building out there with the Wells Fargo name on it by the airport that's one story. Great big footprint, allows for a whole lot of collaboration, a whole lot of flexibility in that process. So a new building that is not encumbered by existing design limitations will make use of the latest thinking and workspace efficiencies, energy efficiency, and technology, thereby ensuring a good long-term return on investment. I do believe that the other options have been vetted properly by organizations with long track records of quality projects in our community with reputations that precede them, and further vetted by a third party who examined their work. You have the opportunity to accept the recommendation of these professionals who have thoroughly studied these options. I don't believe one ever regrets the decision to build a truly quality solution that meets the demonstrated need over a long period of time, one that will last for many years to come, and one that we can all be proud of. I know that because at Augustana, I build buildings for the long haul. I don't build anything short term. They're going to last 50 years, some of them a lot longer. The building I work in is 100 years old. As my dad used to say, do it once, do it right, you won't regret it.
President Oliver, thank you, sir.
You bet.
Folks, is there anybody else who wants to engage the council before I turn it over to them? Welcome.
Thank you. My name is John Koch. I just want to speak on behalf of building this building. Clearly, Sioux Falls is growing. It's been growing for a long time. The needs assessment has been done. When looking at the option of remodeling a space, I just don't think that that has, you know, a proper vision for what the future of this city is. I mean, this is one of the finest cities in one of the greatest nations that we've seen on this planet. And if we need a new administration building to step back in time and remodel a building which, you know, no offense to the owners, isn't that great of a space, seems to me to lack courage and conviction and optimism about the future of this city. So I would encourage you to go ahead with the plan as it is. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Folks, last call. Welcome, sir. Sorry, last call is not appropriate. My apologies. Sir, I apologize.
No problem.
Welcome, sir. It's good to have you here.
My name is Joe Swear. I was born here and raised here. I was gone for 25 years. I returned in 1985. I always had a subscription to the Argus Leader wherever I lived. I was very proud of my city. That has been continually the case. When I came back in '89, I was happy to see the project at the Falls where we used to step on railroad ties and nails and everything else to get on and swim, being developed. There's a few things that have been happening the last couple of months, and I've been watching the city council meetings on TV. I want to apologize, you usually don't appear this way, but I was sitting at home watching TV tonight, and some things that have kind of been bothering me came to the fore. There's such a thing in a city as continuum. And you either respect the people who are in front of you and who did things the right way, or you come in under revolt, which seems to be a real trend these days in our country. The new council members have just been elected. I've read and followed several of you, and I get the distinct feeling that you're running for the next office, whatever that may be. And I also witnessed some of the work you've done previous to this, and it's been very, very good. But there is such a thing as continuum. And the people that have come before you, all the way back to White, Munson, Gary, all of them, have done an excellent job and have worked with good councils. To go into a used building, and I give way to the man who came before the man from Augustana. I've retrofitted probably 10 buildings in my life. I built 7 or 8 new structures. Retrofitting is always, always, always a bigger problem. It is always, always more expensive. There was also a comment made tonight from the audience about kickbacks. And I defy anyone, for anyone in public service, I defy anyone to raise those questions in public without proof. I take that as a personal affront to my history in Sioux Falls. I take it as a personal affront to the city that I respect very much. And my wife said to me, "Where are you going?" And I said, "I'm putting on my shoes and going down." And I apologize if I sound too rough, but this building is like every other project I've seen in this city for the last 40 years that I bore in witness, by long distance and by support and by talking to people back in my hometown. This building is way overdue. I don't know if it's been in the conversation for the last 10 years, but I grew up going to the city hall. This building is way overdue. And from what I've seen of the plans, they're very conservative. If you can build this is not Denver. I've seen that mausoleum. This is a very, very good, solidly planned building. And the contractors that you engaged in the conflict of interest, who better to look at retrofitting a competitive building than the people who have looked at the plans of a new building? So that's all I have to say. I thank you for your time. I'm going to go back to TV.
Thank you, Joel. Appreciate it. Welcome.
Hello, I'm Danielle Merrill, the owner of the 300 building. I'm a math person, and I want to just go back to the simple math, if we could. 40,000 square feet of finished space for $22 million. That is $550 per square foot. I am an investor in the city of Sioux Falls. I work with building and developing properties. I do not like to spend over $100 per square foot building brand new facilities. It is ridiculous, and I would love for you to go try to get a loan from Wells Fargo or any lender for $550 per square foot. That just seems outlandish. The 300 building is a well-built building. It is older, it's 45 years old. There's a lot of law firms, there's a lot of good companies, including my own businesses in there. And I want you to know it's not a dilapidated building. Again, we have reputable people. We have people that run their business every day, including our city attorney used to be there. And I want you to know that I'm fine with you not picking the 300 building, that's irrelevant. But I want you to know that it is, for the price, I wish you would just explore. It just seems very expensive for any type of building for only 40,000 square feet. So please consider that. Thank you.
Danielle, thank you. Council?
Move to approve Ninth Cert.
Second, Erpenbach.
There's been a motion to approve this item and has been seconded. Discussion. Yes, Councilor Erickson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for everyone that spoke today. I think that it's clearly an issue that a lot of people care about. I know I've taken numerous calls and emails. I want to preface by saying this is not 300 building or a new building. This is simply to stop the clock, to continue to have those conversations. The plan isn't just to say, nope, sorry, and move on. The plan is to stop the clock, regroup, come back together with the city, the county, and the state in mind as equals to address our space needs issues throughout all entities and how we can continue to have remarkable service for our citizens that we currently already have. If you look at our citizen surveys doesn't say, please increase your service. It says, fix my roads, please keep me safe. That's what it's saying. Now, when we talk about regrouping and coming back around the table, I want to share a letter that I received, and all of you have received on your desk, as well as some for the public. The letter I have in front of me is to the mayor. It says, Dear Mayor Huether, members of the City Council, this is from the State Bureau of Administration. I understand that the City of Sioux Falls is currently evaluating options for the future of expansion of government office space. Recently, City Councilors have inquired as to whether the state of South Dakota would be open to discussing opportunities to collaborate with other units of government on space. The Bureau of Administration manages space needs for the executive branch of the state government through our Office of Space Management. Although the state is not actively seeking more space in Sioux Falls, we're always open to discussing opportunities to improve our space utilization. I'm not familiar with the city's current or projected space needs. However, if the city determines that it would like to explore collaboration with the state and other governmental entities, Space Manager Kevin Fridley and I would be happy to meet the appropriate city officials to discuss these options. Sincerely, Jeff T. Holden, Commissioner, Bureau of Administration. This is what it's about, friends. This is what it's about, coming together, getting all parties together. This is what it's about. It's not about us saying, hey, we're going to build this because we know that this is what we need. And hey, do you want to come along? The train has left the station for many of these. And so it's time to start over in a collaborative effort. We can do this right. We can do this together as equals. I would ask you to please stop the clock. Thank you.
Councilor Selberg.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
You're welcome.
Yeah, there's a similar letter, of course, that you all see from Lincoln County as well, from the chairperson, Michael Poppin, saying in so many words they would like to work with us and become a part of the conversation as well. You know, as far as the issue goes, for me, I'm not sure that the 300 building is the answer, just as I'm not sure that the new administration building is or isn't the answer. It may very well be. But I think what is clear is there are still options and questions that need to be looked into. And a few of us want more time than the deadline that we inherited to look into these questions. Again, we want to continue the conversation, just take this deadline down. And yes, a delay may cost money. It will if we take it down. There's that option. But on the flip side, there's a possibility we find an option that meets our needs, these space needs, and we save millions. So I think there's a solution. We're not, again, cutting it off, saying no, and that's the end of it. We're trying to keep talking it out. I believe there is a solution, and I think we'll find it in due time, and I hope soon. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Councilor Buck.
You know, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thanks to everyone. I really appreciate it when we get new voices and new faces here and people that have different experiences that can inform our decisions. And I've had lots of conversations, as many of my colleagues have had. I absolutely disagree with the team when we talk about the idea of collaboration. The two counties and the city working together is really a much larger issue than whether we build this building or not. We need to think bigger than this one building. You know, our city charter lays out a plan for part-time council that is intended to truly represent our community. And look at all of us. We cover the gamut from small business owners to teachers and retired executives. We're a great cross-section of this community. But of this group, I think I'm the only person who currently spends 40+ hours a week in a traditional large office setting. I've spent more than 8 years in what I affectionately call a cube farm. Rows and rows of cubicles full of my coworkers. Our offices were recently moved from a closed-in, dark space to a new building, which fortunately the walls weren't leaking, Jeff, to an open floor plan and with direct access to large windows. In the old space, there was dark paint on the walls. The tall, dark cubes blocked natural light, and the windows were reserved for people far enough up the food chain to deserve an office along the outside walls. That office style was something of a soul-sucking experience, I gotta tell you. It's the kind of experience that new young employees avoid. This new administrative building is a government office building. It is a cube farm, yes, but it is planned with 3 key facts in mind. 1, we have city employees in too many different locations. Our citizens deserve better service in a one-stop shop. Number 2, this region is experiencing less than 3% unemployment at this point, 2.1% according to Tracy this afternoon. And number 3, there's fierce competition for every single job applicant. As much as a better work environment is great for our current city staff, I'm really not as concerned about these folks that are working for us now. I am much more concerned about those people who are coming after them, or that we hope that they're going to come after them. I've heard council members and citizens alike say that we need to contract out less of our work and assign more things like special engineering projects to our new city staff, to our own city staff. And I think that's a great idea, but where do you think those super specialized staff members are going to spend their work days, 40, 45, 50 hours a week? Think about it. What you're telling me is you want to hire top-notch young employees right out of high-cost graduate school. But then you're going to tell them, welcome to the team. Your office is in a closet next to an 80-year-old garage. And the people you're assigned to collaborate with are at desks upstairs or down the street or wherever. We kind of lost track of that. But they're not conveniently located in the cube right next to you. I know it's difficult to say you voted for a project that required more debt for the city. I know that's hard. I'm not saying this is some sort of easy win that we're just going to pluck out of the air. But what I am saying is that we are the city's current elected leaders. If we don't do this, who will? You know, and if we don't do it now, when will we do it? And how many more millions are we going to lose doing this? As much as I've heard against this building plan, and I've heard relatively little, honestly, I've heard equal amounts of feedback about moving the city forward and keeping up with the demands of this challenging new economy. This is the right thing to do. to provide an even higher level of city services. And you know it's the right thing for city employees now and long into the future. I encourage you to vote no on this continued delay of this important project. Thank you.
Councilor Staley.
I also have a letter from the Minnehaha County Commissioners to the City Council and Mayor. The Minnehaha County Commission would welcome the opportunity to meet with you, Lincoln County Commissioners, and the state of South Dakota to address our space needs. We believe that working together, we can solve our space needs and save tax dollars. From City Heiberger, their chair. I support this ordinance, and I will tell you that I have heard from a lot of people in our community, and in fact, I got a phone call last night from Gary Hansen calling me about his opinion on this building. I feel that we need some breathing space so we can make the best decision possible for the taxpayers while working for the quality workforce efficiency in city government. And it's kind of coming down, as we hear this, to the future employees. We have heard that this new building is going to house initially 90 to 100 employees. And what I would like to say is I would like to step back, and I think we should do an employee efficiency study. Let's make sure that we're making the best use out of every employee in every department before we move forward. It comes down to a debate about growing government. And I think our citizens want to see efficiency. They also want to see good working environments for everyone. None of us want to see you living in a dungeon or working in a dungeon. But I think there are options out there. But right now, the issue for me is that we're in a time constraint. We've got an October 1st deadline. And I didn't like coming into office with that hanging over around my head, around my neck. And I think we have a right to break out of that so that we can look with ease at all the options available. So that is why I am supporting this ordinance.
Thank you. Councilor Neisert.
Let's be clear. We have time to do this right. Our space needs are not urgent. We are not bursting at the seams. We are not out of space. We need to stop the clock, start over, and bring our partners to the table. A cautious approach is prudent while we are in a period of uncertainty. Our sales tax growth is slowing and is below projections. We have an archive building commitment we may need to fulfill soon. The indoor pool is coming online, and we don't know what its operating costs are going to be. A repeal is not a permanent decision. It just stops the clock. It allows us to continue the conversation. It allows us time to work with our partners. It gives us the fresh start that we need. There is a better way forward. Let's start over with all of our partners, both counties in the state, from the very beginning, all parties at the table, working on our space needs together, with the goal to save taxpayer dollars, improve service to citizens, and be a model to the rest of the state. Let's work together to find a plan that unifies and has the support of the administration, the entire council, and the citizens. We have one chance to do this right. Let's think big. Our partners are ready. The citizens are ready. Tonight, let's say with one clear voice that we are too. Vote yes on repeal. Thank you.
Councilor Kiley.
Thank you. First of all, I would like to, and I know that this conversation really isn't about the 300 building, but I feel that compelled to just correct some information about the square footage of the administration building, which is not proposed. It has been passed by previous city council. But anyway, the basement or parking area, which is very functional because it also houses the mechanical equipment needed for the building, is 19,000 square feet. The first floor, which will be finished, is 20,000. The second floor, which will be finished, is another 20,000. And then we have a third floor that, yes, initially will be unfinished, but it'll allow for immediate space to grow into. That's an additional 20,000. So just right there, there's 79,000 square feet of building that we are constructing. With a future fourth floor,
with an additional 20,000 square feet, which would be able to meet even further into the future the needs of this city. As a result of an opinion that had been sent to all of us council members, I drafted my own opinion, which I had sent back, and I would like to share that with the full council and with members here in the audience as well as the people at home. But the City of Sioux Falls currently is debating the need for and timing of a new city administration building proposed to be built in downtown Sioux Falls. The city certainly needs the space now, and the need is going to increase as we continue to grow at the rapid rate of more than 3,000 additional citizens per year. Adding 45,000 to 50,000 citizens as we have in the past 15 years with no end of the growth in sight logically will require additional city staff members to meet the needs of a growing community. Technology alone cannot accommodate the fast growth our wonderful city is experiencing without the addition of personnel. Technology can add to efficiencies, but it cannot perform all tasks required in an effective city government. You still need people to use the technology, and my experience is most people prefer to work with humans, not automated systems or programs. Currently, the city has locked in prices for the cost to build the new city administration building. The prices have been locked in, but the guaranteed prices will be expired if this project is stopped now. Delay in building will simply pass the buck to future city councils with the likelihood of the cost of building escalating in the millions, thus increasing the debt our city will be forced to carry. In addition to the inflation of construction costs, the city will continue to spend money on lease space. Currently, rent for the 100 South Dakota Avenue building costs taxpayers $120,000 per year, and rent costs are bound to increase as the need for space increases and the cost of leasing escalates along with the cost of everything else. When you lease, you build equity for a landlord, not for you. In this case, we are not building equity for the city, and certainly not the citizens of Sioux Falls. The new city administration building will cost $21.9 million to construct. That amount includes final design, construction, furnishing the building, professional fees, contingency, Dakota Avenue parking improvements at a cost of $150,000, and $300,000 for improvements to Eps Park. Once again, all of those are included in the overall cost of $21.9. The proposed building will include the ability to add a future fourth floor, as I've already mentioned, which will not only meet our needs today, but also meet the needs of the city for the next 50 years and beyond. The best part, it will be constructed at today's costs, not at future inflated costs. Some city councilors desire to slow things down and have additional conversation. Let me assure you, those conversations have been taking place since 2007. Space needs assessments were conducted by the city in 2007 and 2012. Alternatives to building new have been researched from 2012 to present, with the most recent alternative research being the 300 North Dakota Avenue building. Other buildings researched in the past include First Dakota building at 9th and Main, DM&E building at 8th and Phillips, the 100 South Dakota building we are currently leasing, buildings at 120 and 122 South Phillips Avenue, the communication services for the deaf campus, and the former Joe Foss School on North Cliff. Additionally, Councilors Rolfing, Anderson Jr., and I joined the Administrative Building Advisory Team back in March of 2015, and the project was presented to the entire City Council in April of 2015, with the project funding approved in April of 16. Rather than slowing things down, we need to continue on the path we elected to take this past April after many years of vetting the issue. The horse is appropriately in front of the cart, and the City of Sioux Falls has done our due diligence for many years with a heavy dose of due diligence in the past 2 years. Furthermore, we should not be considering stopping this sensible and needed project. We have looked at all directions, and now the direction we should be looking long and hard at is right in front of us. It is time to build the city administration building. It's inevitable that we're going to need this building. There's already been a demonstrated considerable need. We are bursting at the seams. And we've been leasing since 2013. And will continue to lease and spend money on buildings that do not belong to us. We've vetted many options. As I've mentioned, don't saddle future councils and the citizens of Sioux Falls with greater debt because of a delay. And I truly mean the citizens of Sioux Falls. As an individual that was born and raised in this great city, I greatly benefited from its services as a child. I benefited from its services as a young parent raising 3 children in this city. And I realized that all those services, yes, they were delivered by people in the field, but the decisions were made by individuals in an administration building. In an administration building that was built back in the 1930s, and we haven't built a new administration building since that time. So there is no need to pause. We've done our due diligence, and I urge my colleagues to vote no, as I remind you to move forward with the administration building. It requires a no vote this evening, and I urge my colleagues to vote no on this item. Thank you, Mayor.
Council Chair Rolfing.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Boy, we've heard a lot tonight, haven't we? A lot from people who think we're spending too much money or going to. Some from people who think we need to, that we're putting up a Taj Mahal, which it isn't. I think when you get right down to it, if you look at it, the need is evident. We've had the studies, we've had everything there going. The employees need a place to work. If you don't think they do, talk to Mr. Schmidt about where he works. You wouldn't put up with that if you were an employee. We need to work to assure that we get good candidates for the openings that we have. We're going to grow. These letters that we received in a packet here today, was real interesting that these were signed today or very close to today. One of them, then I got a call on saying, what's about this letter? What do you need it for? I didn't know anything about it, found out what was going on. Let me assure you all that these people have been contacted a year ago in hopes that we could collaborate and do some of this together. The state wrote back and said, as it says here, we have no interest right now, we have no need. However, if any of these people do have a need, we do have a 3rd floor that we can finish out for them. It's been thought of. It's been thought of. Time is now. Council administration has looked far enough ahead. We've taken advantage of opportunities offered. We would not be having to make such tough decision right now if other people ahead of us had taken on this responsibility that we're looking at tonight. You know, sometimes it's hard to make a decision when some people feel there's no need or no hurry or no money. But you know what? That's not the case here. The need is evident. We need the building. And we're taking on debt. We're not taking on debt that we can handle, and we're not scaling down the the building project. Excuse me. But sometimes the right thing to do may not be the popular thing to do. Let me repeat that. Sometimes the right thing to do may not be the popular thing to do, but we need to do the right thing here. We need to do it now. I'm not going to go through all this because it's all been said, but I will say that my fellow councilors, it's time to step up, make the correct decision for our fine city, and vote to move this project forward so that our city can continue to prosper and we can provide the needed services our constituents want and what they deserve. Thank you.
Any further comments? David, can I ask you to please explain to the council what a yes vote means and what a no vote means?
Yes vote on this proposed ordinance would repeal the existing ordinance which authorized the sale of sales tax revenue bonds to fund the design and construction of the new city administration building. A no vote would leave the existing ordinance authorizing the bond sale in place and the project could proceed.
A roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Starr,
Yes.
Staley, Erickson, Erpenbach,
No.
Kiley,
No.
Nitzert,
Yes.
Rolfing,
No.
Selberg.
Yes.
That is passed 5-3. Item 41.
Item 41,